If you could wave a magic wand and eliminate your biggest struggle around your attempts to lose weight, what would that be? Most women, as they head into peri and postmenopause, struggle when it comes to losing weight. What is it for you? Struggle to control cravings, overeating, dieting confusion, lack of exercise, drinking alcohol, or all of the above? This is a question that I threw out to my Instagram followers and inside my membership group because I wanted to hear, what are your biggest struggles? And many of them were the same answers. So it just made me think, you know what? I'm going to do a whole podcast episode around this so that I can help all of you with your struggles when it comes to losing weight. So I'm going to go through each of the answers that you gave me as my followers, because I know that the rest of you, the thousands of the thousands of other women listening to this podcast, I know you have the same struggles as these women do. So let's get started. All right. So my client, Chelsea, says to me, for me, I believe it was stress because no matter what I did, nothing changed. Sometimes in life, you have to make big decisions and change everything to save yourself. Sell everything and move to Mexico. ¿Por qué no? That means why not in Spanish. I wanted to start with this one because, stress. If there's one thing that I see more than anything else get in a woman's way of losing weight is her stress. Stress affects every hormone in your body, and oftentimes negatively. So if you're constantly running on high, constantly go, 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 do, this, my friend, could be stopping you from losing weight. When I met with Chelsea, I think it was probably about a year ago now, before she moved to Mexico, her hormone profile was one of the worst I had ever seen. Her cortisol was as high as it could go for all 4 markers of the day. When we test cortisol, we test it 4 times throughout the day so that we can see what your cortisol clock is doing. And typically I see some that are too high, some too low, but all 4 of them were high. She was highly stressed out. So what did she do? She quit her job. She shut down actually her business. And her husband and her teenage son moved to Mexico. And now I know not many of us have that option and that freedom, or, we have definitely a lot of fear over making big changes like that. But you don't have to move to Mexico. You could still have that mindset of, you know what, I am going to do a complete overhaul of the stress in my life because it's making me ill. You can start looking at all the different areas in your life that are stressing you out. What's going on in your brain that is stressing you out? That's huge. We have so much negative talk in our brain. We're constantly worrying, fearing, looking into the future, looking into the past, dwelling on things that may have happened a long time ago. This is constantly causing stress in your body. Did you know that when you think inside your head, when you're playing out something inside your head, so let's say you're thinking back to the 5 years ago, you had a really, really bad fight, or maybe you got divorced, or you lost a job. And if years later you are rehashing that inside your head, and going over it and over it. Maybe it was just a conversation that you had last week with your boss where you had a big fight. Or maybe you're thinking about a challenging conversation that you may have to have with somebody you love, or maybe someone you don't love, that you have to confront them. And so you're sitting there stressing about this. You're replaying these conversations, whether they were in the past or you're playing over a conversation that hasn't even happened yet. Your body does not know the difference between what is actually happening or what you're imagining. So your body's going to give you the same stress response, whether it's really happening or whether you're just imagining it. So be aware of your thoughts, people. Be aware of all the stressors that could be coming in and impacting your health and impacting your ability to lose weight. It is key. As my friend Chelsea found out, she had to take big leaps in order to decrease her stress response and just relax and go with life. And now she's working from Mexico. She's loving life and she's happy and she's a lot less stressed. So thank you, Chelsea, for sharing that with us. All right. Next, we have three different answers, all were really the same thing, which is from T Young 81. She says, just not losing weight despite doing everything perfect. And then Carrie Dickel says, not losing weight despite a perfect diet. And another one from the membership group says, feeling like I'm doing everything right, but still holding on to more weight than is usual for my body. Who can relate? I know I can. You all know my story probably by now, which is I had severe weight loss resistance for a very long time. And I still struggle. I still struggle with some weight loss resistance. But here's the thing. I know why I struggle with weight loss resistance. And it took a while to figure that out. It actually probably took me a good 10 years to really figure that out because I had hypothyroidism and it went undiagnosed for, well, I wouldn't say 10 years, but let's say, well, who knows how long I've had it for, but really noticed it after the birth of my first child and wasn't diagnosed with it for about 8 years after that. So ladies, T Young, Carrie, let me tell you, if you are struggling with weight loss resistance, please start digging. And I don't want you to dig into the next best fad diet. I want you to say, okay, I'm having a lot of troubles losing weight. I've tried multiple different diets and it's not budging. I'm doing everything right, but you're not doing everything right. So let's get that through the old noggin first and foremost. You're not doing everything right because you're just looking and looking and looking at the food, the exercise, this podcast, the other side of weight loss. We have to go beyond diet, beyond exercise. And it's not to say those things aren't very important. Obviously, if we eat way too much, then yes, we're going to gain weight. If we don't exercise, we'll be more prone to weight gain. Of course. And we have to actually have that as our foundation. Healthy eating and exercise has to be the foundation. But ladies, I know you've been eating well. You've tried all the diets. So now it's time to go to the next step, which is what else is contributing to your weight and your inability to lose it. So number one, 95% of weight loss resistance in women is due to her hormones. So first and foremost, have your hormones checked. That is like the easiest And the best thing that you can do if you're suffering from weight loss resistance, because then you're not guessing. Hormone imbalance, they all of them mimic each other. They all have very similar symptoms. Every woman thinks that she's got high cortisol and high estrogen because they fall under that. And they're actually end up, a lot of them hurting their hormonal system more because they're just assuming that they have high cortisol and high estrogen. So they start draining their estrogen. They start taking all of these adaptogens and stress supplements to lower cortisol. Well, high cortisol and low cortisol really mimic each other as far as symptoms go. You can feel really wired and not able to sleep and go when you have low cortisol, and also when you have high cortisol. Some people get so low in their cortisol that for sure they get really burnt out and they have very, very little energy. But most of the time, what I see is a lowered cortisol with symptoms that more so mimic high cortisol, with that wired but tired feeling. So you have to test. A lot of the time, high estrogen symptoms are really just due to low progesterone. Progesterone is the first hormone to go as we head into perimenopause. If you didn't hear my last episode called What the Heck is Happening to My Hormones, please go back and listen to it. And I go through exactly what happens in perimenopause and menopause to your hormones. And so a lot of the time we lose our progesterone, but we have really healthy levels of estrogen, but we'll have the symptoms of estrogen dominance. So you'll start, without testing, you start taking supplements to drain your estrogen. Next thing you know, you're gaining more weight because estrogen in the perfect amount helps us to not gain weight and can help us to lose weight. When we hit that menopause time and that belly grows, the meno belly, that, my friends, is from estrogen deficiency. So do you want to drain your estrogen and speed up the process of growing that meno belly? Then go for it. But I don't think that that's what you want to do. So test. Let's see where that estrogen is. Let's see where the progesterone is. And let's see where the thyroid is. In Canada, they refuse to test beyond TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. And that is how I was misdiagnosed or not diagnosed for 8+ years, because nobody went past testing my TSH. My TSH was always super. It was normal. It was my T3 that was in the toilet and my reverse T3 that was too high. But do you think my doctor was going to test that? No. I had to pay out of pocket for it. And it was the best thing I ever did. And I think to myself, oh my gosh, had I just spent the money that I was holding tightly to, because, I don't want to spend hundreds of dollars on a hormone test, I could have saved myself 8 years of suffering, of being suboptimal in my life. Thyroid has a massive impact on your entire system, as do all hormones. So without it, you feel very suboptimal, sometimes like complete garbage. So if you have to pay out of pocket, especially here in Canada, do it. If you suspect you have a thyroid problem, please go pay out of pocket for it. Tell your doctor, tell your MD, look, I know you can't test past TSH. I will pay out of pocket to have my free T4 and my free T3 tested. They can't test reverse T3. Only a naturopath can in Canada. In the United States, you can do it online. You can order a kit to do a full thyroid panel from Paloma Health, who also offers a reverse T3. So they'll test your antibodies, they'll do the full thyroid panel, and they'll test the reverse T3. So if you suspect it and you can't lose weight, you've got this crazy weight loss resistance, thyroid could absolutely be a factor. So testing your hormones, testing your thyroid is key. Next to that, we want to do a metabolic panel. So we want to see what's your cholesterol doing? What's your blood sugar doing? It shocks me how many women I work with who have never tested their blood sugar. Never. Blows my mind, because insulin resistance is, and type 2 diabetes is on the rise. So we need to see what's our blood sugar doing, because if we're insulin resistant, everything we eat is just getting stored as fat. And so it doesn't matter how good you eat, it's probably not enough to really move that dial enough, right? Or you just maybe need to do a different kind of diet because you're insulin resistant. That's also huge. You may have tried multiple different diets, didn't see that it helps you lose weight, so you just moved on to the next one. When if you were insulin resistant, it may take some time. You may have to have a couple of months, 3 to 6 months on a ketogenic diet to really lower that blood sugar. And maybe you didn't give it enough of a try or long enough in order to get that weight to come down. So diet, the type of diet you follow really should match what your hormone profile is doing. It's all about finding the weight loss code, ladies. What else? When it comes to weight loss resistance, infection. Now, I've talked about this in past episodes, so I'm not going to get into it too far, but infection is far more prevalent than we think it is. And when I say infection, I mean things like Lyme disease. I've had 2 women this week with Lyme disease. I often see mold toxicity. I see heavy metals a ton in my practice for women that actually go and properly get them tested, that they come out with high levels of mercury, lead, cadmium, arsenic, aluminum in their body. And when these heavy metals are in that high of amount, I mean, there's no safe levels of these terrible heavy metals. Especially lead, there's no safe level of lead. All of these things, all of those metals can impact your metabolic rate massively. Your body holds onto your fat with dear life. And this was my problem. This was my weight loss resistance. My thyroid issue was due to heavy metal toxicity. So I found my reasoning for my weight loss resistance. You have to do the same. I know that it can be overwhelming. And I tell my clients this, I'm like, look, you've been struggling for so long. You've tried so many different diets, but you really have to just start ticking these things off one by one. And, if all you can do is like one every 6 months, as far as the testing goes, because they tend to be functional tests that, definitely cost a little bit more money, it's still worth doing. And you just start ticking them off. So go and do a mold test if you suspect mold. 6 months later, go do a small intestinal bacteria overgrowth test if you've got digestive issues. There's definitely, you could really look at your symptoms and correlate it possibly with one of the more chronic illnesses, right? Or toxicities. So if you've got a lot of thyroid problems, you're not converting that T4 to T3, then you may think, okay, I'm going to do heavy metals first. If you're constantly tired all the time, you may want to do something like mold. If you're always congested and, your brain's foggy, test for the mold. If you've always got gut problems and it doesn't matter what diet you do, you're just bloated and you don't feel good, test for small intestinal bacteria overgrowth or candida, or do a GI map test to see if you've got any, abnormal bugs growing in your gut that need to be killed off in order for you to have a functioning gut, which then once that is working better, then the weight will start to come off. So just start going through these things. Quit looking to the diet, quit with the tunnel vision, and go beyond diet and exercise and start really digging. Okay. All right. Colleen says, after supper eating. Oh, I hear that one a lot too. I can't stop myself from eating after dinner. There's a few reasons behind this one that I've seen. Like I've been doing this for almost 8 years now. And there's a couple of reasons now that I've seen that really drive that after supper eating. Number one, you're going too low carb at dinner time. So if you're just having vegetables and a piece of meat because you're following more of a low carb diet, for some people that doesn't work very well to have like the super low carb every day, all day. So if you find that you're truly hungry, so you eat dinner, you eat your chicken breast and with salad, this is my trigger for this is chicken with vegetables. I always notice that an hour later, I am in the cupboards searching out something sugary, some form of carbohydrates. And now I know this about myself. So I know that if I am eating a salad with chicken on it, which I often do, I know now to add some starch in there, whether that's maybe some roast potatoes. I love like cutting up a bunch of potatoes, dicing them, putting some olive oil, some salt, and roasting them in the oven. Delicious. Throw that on top of my salad, and it's always a winner. I don't get hungry an hour later. But if I don't do that, if it's too lean, there's not enough fat, there's not enough carbohydrates in the meal, and an hour later, I'm hungry and I'm not going to go back and eat some more salad. We all know that doesn't happen. If you're hungry at 8 o'clock at night, you're not going for the savory. You're going for the sweet, unless you're going for a bag of chips. But we all know we're not eating chicken breast and broccoli at 8 o'clock at night. So if you are going too lean, so not enough fat, good fat, not enough maybe carbohydrates at your dinner, and you can play around with this a little bit, then I invite you to put some stuff in, put some fruit in, right after dinner. Go and eat a bowl of fruit, like make up a fruit salad, have a bowl of fruit after dinner if you've had a really low carb dinner, and see if later on you don't have the cravings like you were having. Okay, so that's first little hack for the late night eating. Second is it's the time of the day when us women, myself included, that we finally relax. And it's like, and we've just had this busy, busy, busy day. You go finally, you're going and lying on that couch, and you're throwing on Netflix, and you're just like, oh, I just want to baby myself. I want it to feel good and relaxed. Well, sugar, everyone, makes you feel really good, even if it's momentarily. It's just like, that feels good. It's like treating yourself, right? So if that is you, so you're not hungry, but you're craving that feel good, something sweet or some chips or popcorn, then I invite you just to simply try to replace it with something that's not going to harm your health. I know that that's hard, but try. Now, my favorite things to recommend are, one, make sure it's before 8 o'clock, preferably around 7, not later than 7, because then you're starting to mess with sleep and it's not good. And then that'll make more of an impact on how your body's going to hold on to that food that you just ate rather than burning it off. So try and get around 7 o'clock, 7 to 7:30, and start with, if possible, a piece of chocolate. And I would love to say dark chocolate, 75% dark chocolate. It's always the best. But many of you are like, no, thank you. I need my milk chocolate. I say go for it. Now, The problem is, how much of the milk chocolate will you overeat? So, for some people, dark chocolate, for instance, I can have a couple squares of dark chocolate and be totally okay. Give me milk chocolate with like nuts and raisins in it, and it's a whole different story. I will pound back the entire chocolate bar. So I know this about myself, so I don't put that into my house. So what I'll do if I crave the chocolate or something sweet, I'll buy good, really good, actually expensive if possible, dark chocolate. And I sometimes even get those ones, I think they're called lilies, and they're sweetened with stevia. And they're so good. So I'll do something like that. So I'm not spiking blood sugar. I'm still getting that comforting feeling of chocolate in my mouth at nighttime. Have it with a cup of tea, or, get into the bathtub if you're a bather. I'm not, but get in to the bath if you're a bather. Have your cup of mint tea, have some squares of chocolate, and just savor every little bite and just give yourself maybe 2-3 squares. Drink your tea, finish your chocolate, finish the bath, and get out. And by the time you get out, the cravings to continue eating that chocolate will be over. And that's a really good trick to know, because if we pop in some tasty chocolate, everything starts to light up in the brain, and the brain says, go get me some more of that now. But if you give it 20 minutes, that craving, that drive to go get more usually dissipates. So having it away, or buying small doses of the chocolate so that you don't overeat it, keeping it downstairs in the basement freezer, keeping it away from you so that you don't overeat. Or simply tell yourself, I'm going to have this cup of tea. I'm going to have 3 squares of my chocolate bar, and I'm going to wait for 30 minutes. And if I still want some, I'll go get it. And 9 out of 10 times, if you wait a half an hour, that craving, that drive will go away and you can ignore it. Okay. So there's that. Other things that you can switch around with that would be yogurt. Yogurt nowadays, like if you get the 15% or fat Greek yogurt, like vanilla, to me, that's like ice cream. It's just thick deliciousness. So something like that, like put some into a bowl, put some nuts on it, crunch, maybe some fruit, some berries, some coconut flakes, like dress it up, get some paleo granola or something, sprinkle that on. Cinnamon actually really tricks the brain into thinking you're having something sweet when you're not with cinnamon. So sprinkle it with cinnamon. That's my husband's new thing right now, is he's loving just yogurt with a little granola on the top and some berries. And he's just like, that just hits the spot for me. So something like that, and have it close to after dinner. Like I said, like trying to get it in before 7 would be ideal. Having a little bowl like that, having a couple of different, squares of dark chocolate. This is not going to stop you from losing weight. You should be able to have yourself a little treat at the end of the day, and for it not to impact your ability to lose weight. It's if you're eating the entire Dorito bag and watching TV at nighttime, or massive bowls of ice cream, which given at times I do that. And it's wonderful, but it doesn't stop me from losing weight, or it doesn't make me gain weight, because I don't do it every single day. Now, try these things. You can try things like, obviously you can make your own popcorn. Popcorn tends to be a runaway train for most people, where you just can't stop eating it. You can't like give yourself 2 cups of popcorn and stop there. So know that about yourself. If you have uncontrollable, need to eat things, keep those out of the house. Put some safer options inside so that you're not taking away that pleasure. Because here's the thing, if you just try to just say, okay, that's it, I'm not going to eat anymore at nighttime, we all know how long that lasts for. Not very long. We are creatures of pleasure. So if you're taking away that pleasure, it's a matter of time before your willpower will run out and you'll go back to it. So replace it with something that's not going to be as detrimental to your health or your ability to lose weight. All right. Rose with Love on Instagram says, lack of quality sleep. Okay, huge. Deserves its entire own podcast. And I've done lots on insomnia. So you can go back and listen to the different ones on insomnia. But number one, get to the root of why you're not having quality sleep. So a lot of the time for women, it is hormonal. And I did a whole podcast episode called How to Beat Hormonal Insomnia or something like that. I'll link to it in the show notes. For women that are going into perimenopause and postmenopause, with the hormonal changes that happen, one of the most typical side effects is insomnia. In the beginning, it tends to be that our cortisol goes up and our progesterone goes down. And the progesterone is very calming, and it acts on what's called the GABA receptors in the brain. So you've maybe heard of GABA as a supplement. It's great for anxiety. So progesterone, without it, we tend to be more high wired. And then in the beginning, we have this cortisol pouring out. We have not enough progesterone. So we get high wired and it's hard for us to fall asleep. And then we'll have that like 2 a.m. For some people, actually, they fall asleep fine. And then they have the 2 to 3 a.m. wake up and they're ready to go for the day. This is this cortisol dysregulation. It's pouring on. There's not enough progesterone. So there's some amazing things that you can do for that, like replace your progesterone with bioidentical progesterone cream. That's many, many women that I work with say that that's all they needed in order to sleep better. Okay. Some women, it's estrogen. Some, when they lose their estrogen, there's multiple reasons why that starts to affect their sleep. So sometimes it's just a matter of replacing the estrogen and suddenly they're sleeping better. Sometimes that lack of estrogen can cause multiple wake ups throughout the night because you're in night sweats, or hot flashing is really what it is, but you're waking up in that pool of sweat. When I started to go into menopause, this was happening to me all night long. I'd wake up, and I'm not a sweater because I've got a thyroid problem, right? I've never been, like, if I work out, you could barely even tell. Like, I don't even have a single little drip on my face. I just go red. So I was waking up in this like pool of sweat. It was terrible. And as soon as I addressed my hormones, and for me, it was like taking a menopause supplement before bed that had like black cohosh, dong quai in it, hesperidin, sage. I can't remember the company, but there's a good one by Lorna Vanderhaag called MenoSmart. That's a great one. I've taken that one, and the one that I have now is similar to that product. And I could just take 1 or 2 of those capsules before bed, and my hot flashes were gone. My night sweats were gone. I also, of course, started to replace the estrogen, started to replace the progesterone, and I was sleeping through the night and still am. So look to see, is there hormones that could be causing the insomnia? The other thing that I'm going to recommend doing is, if you are not having quality sleep, which absolutely, by the way, Rose with Love can absolutely cause weight loss resistance. It can cause insulin resistance. It causes leptin resistance. It makes you want to eat like crap when you don't sleep well. So sleep is huge when it comes to weight loss. So my other tip, if you're a light sleeper, and you're sleeping with a partner, man or woman, that is keeping you awake with their snoring, get out of there. I tell women this all the time, and they're just like, it's never even crossed their mind that was an option, to not sleep with their partner. And I'm like, look, my lovely husband, who I love very much, when he's sleeping, he sounds like Darth Vader. It's like, and then snores on top of that. It's terrible. And I'm the lightest sleeper, so that if he even moved and shifted the blankets over, I was awake. So I was waking up multiple times in the night. It was terrible. So I said, you got to go. You got to get out of here. And I sent him to the spare bedroom. And it's been one of the best things we could have ever done for our marriage. And it doesn't affect our love life at all, because let's be honest, if you're not sleeping because they're snoring all night, do you really feel like having sex the night after that you haven't, the night that the night after you haven't slept at all? No, forget it. Sex drive will be the first to go if you're tired all the time. You do, women, no. Guys, they can have sex when they're half asleep. They don't care how tired they are. Like, let's just do it. Women, when we're tired, forget it. If you're drained, it ain't going to happen. And it can kind of make it fun. It's like, hey, come on into my bed tonight for a little, you know what? Then, you know what? Head her on out. Kind of like a one night stand where the person ain't staying. It's like, okay, now you go back to your own bedroom. And I sleep like a baby without him. And he appreciates that, because he's such a considerate man that he was always worried that he was keeping me awake. So it's a win-win for both of us. We're comfortable. He doesn't have to stress about keeping me awake. I can have a good night's sleep without having to listen to Darth Vader beside me. And don't fall into the trap of that makes it seem like we don't have a good relationship if we're not sleeping together. Because if it's not working, it's just, you know what, that doesn't matter. We still cuddle, we still have sex, it has not taken away from our relationship. It has added to it in a positive way. So you just have to change your belief about that and say, you know what, I would be better off like this. Some husbands get a little bit like, what? But I want to sleep with you. So what you say to that is, okay, let's just try this. You go to sleep in your own bed. I'm going to play a recording of your snoring. So you record their snoring through the night. You stick it beside them on the bedside table. You go sleep in the spare bedroom, and you crank that volume right up, and you see if your husband can go to sleep with his own snoring recording playing so that he can maybe understand how challenging that is, because, oh my gosh, it's so challenging. And a lot of men snore terribly. So be open to doing that little sleep hack, okay? If that is why you're not having quality sleep. All right. Next we have Michelle, 2280. Need time for exercise, she says. And we've got that. Some other people said like having energy after work to work out. So working out, it's probably been my biggest battle with my weight loss, is, besides my hormones, is exercise. Like, I'm not one of those people that's like, yeah, woohoo, let's go exercise. I find it challenging to get out there and do a lot of exercise. I'm a workaholic. If there's things to do, I just want to get to it and get working. But it's so important. And every time I exercise, I feel so good about it. And I feel like, why am I not more up to doing this? Because I feel awesome when I'm doing it. And afterwards, I'm so happy. At the end of the day, I feel so much better that I haven't just sat in front of my computer all day long, staring at a screen, that I actually got a good workout in. So, number one, find the reason why you don't want to work out. Or, I think that's very important, because some of us, it's an energy thing. And if you don't have the energy, you don't want to work out. And so fix the energy problem so that the working out comes easier. I do this with my clients. They always say, well, what about, we'll go through all these things that could be, making them feel not so good and going through their hormones, their diet, etc. And then they'll say, well, what exercise should I be doing? And I'll say, well, is exercise easy for you? No, I never have energy. I'm like, let's put it on the back burner for now. Let's, fix the diet, fix the hormones, fix the energy levels. And then we'll talk about exercise when you actually have the energy to do it. So that's, I think, super important. And it does kind of fix the, I don't have time to exercise. Because to be honest, we usually all do have time to exercise. That's just the truth. I tell myself this all the time. I'm like, oh, I just don't have time. I'm just so busy. I can't exercise. When, truth be told, could you not all get up 30 minutes earlier so that you could do a 30-minute workout, a 20-minute workout, even a 7 to 10-minute workout? Do you not have time to do that? It's more so you don't have the energy to do it. So then you're like, gosh, if I have half an hour in my day, I don't want to spend it working out. I just want to go sit and relax. So if you've got the energy, you may be up for more like, okay, I'm going to fit this in somewhere so that, even if it's 3 days a week, so it's every other day, where you can say, okay, every other day, I'm going to get up a half an hour earlier so I can sit, drink my coffee, relax, then go for a workout for 20 minutes, and then get ready for work. This, with COVID going on, home workouts are the rage. I set up a whole little gym in my basement I bet for under $150. I got dumbbells, I got mats, I got a yoga mat, I got a bench. The bench was probably another $100, but I could have not gotten the bench. So you can set up a home gym for under $100, or a home space where you would do it. There was times when my basement would get really cold in the winter and I would keep my weights upstairs in the ottoman. So I just lift up my ottoman lid and I'd have my dumbbells in there. I'd throw my yoga mat out on the living room floor, put a workout on YouTube, on the TV, 20 minutes, done. So we can all do that. We can get up a little bit earlier so that we can work out. Now, we also have from Glama Yo-Yo, having the energy after work to work out. So why are you trying to work out after work? Nobody wants to work out after work. Very few of us anyways, unless you're super gung-ho. It's like, for me, everything has to happen before 2:00 in the afternoon or it doesn't happen. Exercise, work, everything. I just start like after 2:00, it's like, energy just takes a dive. I can't start looking cross-eyed because I'm staring at a computer for too long. So I have to do the workout in the morning. So if possible, Glama Yo-Yo, I want you and everyone else that has that problem too, to put it somewhere else. Get up that little bit earlier. Like I said, even if all you committed to start was 15 minutes every other day. If you go onto YouTube, you will find a bazillion 15-minute workouts. You'd be very surprised. And you think, well, what's that going to do, Karen? Am I going to lose a bunch of weight if I'm only working out 15 minutes? Is 15 minutes every other day, though, better than not at all? Yes, 150%. Yes. And what it is you are getting into a different habit. You're building different habits. And so it's better to start small so that you can, say, okay, for 1 month, I'm going to do 15 minutes every second day. And then in 30 days, after committing to that, then I'll go to 20 minutes every other day. And then in a month, I'll do 30 minutes every other day. And then maybe you'll get to 30 minutes 5 days a week before you go to work. That is possible. And there's also weekends. So if both Saturday and Sunday, you can do a workout and then do another, maybe 2 during the weekday, if you're a very busy working person where you're working a lot, if that's all you can commit to, that is amazing and will change your body. If you're lifting weights 4 times a week, that is enough to change the shape of your body. So give those little hacks a try and see if you can do that. If you can start at a different time of the day, getting up a little bit earlier. Some people too, maybe it's their lunch hour. I have a lot of clients that join different fitness groups where they go and they do a fitness class during their lunch hour and then quickly eat on their way back to work. So figure out what would be best for you. And if all else fails, at least commit to Saturday and Sundays, the weekend, and working out both of those days. If that's all you can do, it is better than nothing. All right, almost done. So we definitely have this quite often too. The dieting confusion for me. There's a lot of dieting confusion. We have that from Shoot for Wellness. Love it. Love that name. And from Dormer 76. She says, understanding what will work for me, which is the same as dieting confusion. So what I have my ladies do that have dieting confusion is this kind of reboot. So if you've most of you have tried multiple different things and now you're just confused. Okay, do I do keto? Do I do paleo? Do I do vegan? Do I do vegetarian? What do I do? Carnivore? What am I doing? I'm so confused. What's best for me? I'd have to say, first, test your hormones, because your hormone profile will tell you how you should be eating. Second to that, wipe away all of the bad, inflammatory foods. So I usually, if people are kind of all over the map with their dieting, I'll say, okay, let's do paleo for 30 days. So this is usually very easy for people to follow. It's not as strict as the carnivore and ketogenic diets. It's like, okay, let's just take out these inflammatory foods. Let's focus on eating, fruits, vegetables, meats, eggs, nuts and seeds, some dairy if you're okay with it. Let's take this all out. And then in 30 days, okay, how did that work? If it worked, if you lost weight, you found it easier, like, oh my gosh, that's the best thing ever, which is what happened to me when I did paleo, then great, move forward. That now that's your diet and quit looking elsewhere. If at the end of that 30 days, you didn't lose any weight, then you can say, okay, what kind of symptoms have I felt? Have I felt still like I'm inflamed? Do I still have a rash on my skin? Do I still have chronic headaches? Because at that point, then you can say, okay, let's try the autoimmune paleo instead and take out more inflammatory foods. And I've seen a lot of women transition from paleo or keto to autoimmune, and boom, the weight comes off because they've removed some more of the inflammatory foods that could be bothering their system when they're immune sensitive. Maybe at the end of it, you're like, I still haven't lost any weight. Now it's time then to check the hormones. What's your blood sugar doing? Are you insulin resistant? Because if you are, then maybe you need to go to a ketogenic diet and start doing some intermittent fasting and taking some herbals that will help correct blood sugar. So start with that template, ladies, and build on there. Then go, okay, what is it that I need to do here? A lot of people that do the paleo at the end of the 30 days, they will have lost weight. And then I can say, okay, now you can play around with the gray area foods like rice and quinoas and hopefully not gluten, because I don't find many people do well with gluten, but dairy, some people do well with dairy. So, for me, for instance, can't do quinoa, cannot do rice. I can do potatoes though, all day long. Eggs, I can only do a little bit. So I've really fine-tuned some things. I can do gluten-free, some, not all, gluten-free breads. Don't bother me. Gluten-free pasta though, doesn't work, makes me feel sick. So I've just fine-tuned that paleo diet to work for me. I've put some of the gray foods back in, not a ton, but I've put some back in that I can tolerate. I can't tolerate a lot of nuts and seeds. I know this about myself. So I've, some things I do okay with, some I don't. And now I know that that is my diet. So I've fine-tuned it to work for me. And that's what I want you to do too, to quit looking at all the different diets and go, okay, I'm going to remove all these inflammatory foods, get back to the basics, whole foods, no grains, see how that feels. Put some things back in at the end, put some beans back in 30 days. How does your body react? Do you gain weight? Do you get inflamed? Do you not feel good? Do you get bloated? Because if you do, guess what? Beans are not your friend for now. Same with the grains. If you feel sick, inflamed, headachy, some people, it's emotional. They get more anxiety or depression. Then you go, okay, that's not the food for me. Once you've gotten there, what you can also do is carb tolerance testing. So carb tolerance testing, you can read Rob Wolf's book about it. There's lots of information online. Even on his website, he talks about how to carb tolerance test. If you join my membership group, you get a whole download PDF on how to do it. And you can test different foods to see which ones spike your blood sugar and are not your friend, and then the ones that don't, that you can eat safely. Okay. So that is a way to just fine tune things. And all you need is a blood sugar monitor for that. Cheap, easy. And I think every woman trying to lose weight should own a blood sugar monitor. Okay. So that's what I want you to do to find your weight loss code. I've done a whole episode on this in the past. Tools and tips, tools, and something to find your weight loss code. I will link to that also in the show notes. Okay, I think, okay, our final one, emotional eating. I either eat my feelings or don't eat when I'm upset. So emotional eating is a massive contributor to whether or not we can stick to healthy eating. And if this is you, if you just find that you follow a good healthy eating plan for a month, but the minute something happens in your life that's stressful, fearful, sad, that you can't control what you're eating, and you of course seek out those high reward foods, know that diet won't fix that. So it doesn't matter what diet you try, it doesn't fix emotional eating. What fixes emotional eating is recognizing those patterns of, hey, look at me, all I want to eat is ice cream, and I had a bad day at work. So just simply recognizing and being honest with yourself about it, rather than beating yourself up going, why can't I control what I eat? And I'm such I always fall off the wagon. And, don't beat yourself up about it. Instead go, I have an emotional eating problem. Hello, my name is Karen. I have an emotional eating problem. Admit it to yourself first and foremost. And just all I want you to do is simply recognize what you're doing to start. So for a month, I just want you to simply write down every time you find yourself uncontrollably eating, or maybe not eating for this person. I want you to write it down. It doesn't have to be in a journal. It can be on your phone in your notes section. Just put, today had a bad day. Here's what happened. I had a fight with my husband. I had a fight with my wife. I had whatever it is. And I couldn't stop eating the cookies. And so you'll just take a month to just take note of the emotions that drove the eating and what you ate. And then at the end of that month, you can take a look and say, you'll start to see patterns. Wow, when I'm tired, I can't control my eating. Now you know you have to fix your sleep. Or, whenever I'm near my period, my anxiety goes up and I can't control my eating. So now we know we have to fix the PMS. We have to fix the hormonal imbalance. We have to take time for ourselves more during that time. We need to maybe take some supplements that can help bring down anxiety so we're not driven to eat. Maybe by the end of it, you'll say, I notice a pattern that it's when I have a hard day at work that at nighttime, I can't stop eating. So how can you remedy those long days? Do you maybe need to start going for weekly massages, acupuncture, energy healing? Maybe talk to a therapist, a counselor, just unload that stress so it's not bottled up inside of you and driving you to eat those poor foods. So do that. You're going to do a month of tracking, not trying to stop it, just a month of tracking so that you can maybe pinpoint some possible root causes to the emotional eating and then address those head on. Okay. All right. So that is it. Thank you everybody for answering those questions for me. And I'm going to leave you all with this amazing woman that I just discovered on Instagram. I saw it actually, a little clip of one of her poems or blog posts on somebody else's site. So then I went and looked her up, and this was this morning. So I was like, oh, this couldn't be more timely and perfect to have discovered this woman. Her name is Donna Ashworth, and she's at donnaashworth.com. Highly suggest going over and checking her out. So here's what she writes. The title of the post is called, "You Had a Perfect Body All Along." Make peace with yours right now, my friend, for it has toiled for many years just to keep you alive. It has grown, weathered virus and disease, healed countless wounds, and fought many unseen battles to keep your soul intact for its journey through this life. Yes, it has changed, but it has been changing since the day you were born. And it will continue to change until the day you die. Make peace with this. Striving against this change is like trying to blow away the wind. Futile, pointless, misery-making. Your body has served you well and done so with your daily hate and disapproval. It has suffered years of daily, hourly negativity pulsing its way from your brain to your cells. Not good enough, not attractive enough, not perfect. And every day you thought it wasn't perfect, it really, truly was. It was keeping you alive, supporting your rash decisions, counteracting your foolish mistakes, doing everything in its power to stay in the game. For you. Make peace with your body today, my friend. Say your apologies, right your wrongs, and move on with appreciation. You are blessed. Look around you. Not everyone is so blessed. Not everyone is breathing, walking, thriving. And whilst you are looking around, see that nobody is perfect. The way a body looks says nothing about its strength, its longevity, its endurance. This is not a rehearsal. This is your one shot at a life well lived. Make it count. Donna Ashworth. And that is where I'm going to leave you all today. Until next week, my friends, thank you so much for tuning into today's podcast, and I will talk to you next Saturday.